3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome one and all to Monday Night Nerd. Hope you're having a great week. It has been a great week here, and it's even better now because we got a guest. I think, is this your third time being on the show? I think
it might be third or fourth. I don't know which one.
Man, you're like me on Geeks & Co. You are just, you've got so many times on the show, but I'm so glad to have you. The Freakish Workshop is here, folks. How are you doing, sir?
Again, better now that we're doing this and we're chatting and chatting before this, just about what we're talking about today, but also San Diego Comic-Con stuff, Ontario Comic-Con World Universe stuff. So it's always good to talk shop.
Of course. And yes, folks, we are 24 days away from Fan Expo Canada. I know it is going to be a huge con for myself. This person is doing something a little more important. He will not be there, unfortunately.
No.
But that just means Dr. Frankenstein gets to stay in the workshop a little more and make the monster just a little bit better for when he releases it into the world.
Oh yes, the plans on and what graves I need to dig up, what parts have already been planned out for my monster. So I'm very excited about that. But yes, unfortunately, I won't be able to go to Fan Expo this year. I am moving into my new house, literally the 23rd. The Friday of, and with work and everything, it's going to be crazy. So unfortunately, not. However, I will be at London Comic-Con. In fact, I get to be a special part of London Comic-Con. Announcement should be coming out at some point, I think, in the next month or so. So I'll hold on to that. I'll tease y'all with that. But I will be at London Comic-Con. So definitely, if you were going there, get even more excited because both of us are going to be there. That one.
Yes, it's going to be another. It's funny. I used to say that summer was the con season. It's becoming a whole year thing because London's still got to go. Hamilton's still going. I've got Frightmare in the Falls still in October. Like we are not done, folks. Just because the top of the hill is in 24 days does not mean it is over anytime soon.
No, sir.
But we're not here to talk about cons. We're here to talk about video games. We're here to talk about the top 10 video games that we feel deserve a remake or a reboot. Now, we're going to get into them, and we're going to have a little discussion beforehand about rules and all that. But first, we were going to talk, obviously the big thing last weekend was Deadpool and Wolverine, and I was there in costume as Mr. Logan. It was a lot of fun. I'm not going to go into too much because this individual has a thing called a life and has not been able to swing by the theater to see Deadpool and Wolverine. And I totally understand. So we're not going to get into that. So next week, we're going to talk all about Deadpool, Wolverine, and we're going to talk all about San Diego Comic-Con because we could spend the whole episode talking about San Diego Comic-Con and all of the highlights that happened, all the announcements that happened. However, there is one that has split the internet that I'll be completely honest, has split the opinions of the two people on this video chat podcast right now. And that is Mr. Robert Downey Jr. is back in the MCU as Dr. Doom. He came out on stage. There was a bunch of Doom bots surrounding the stage, and he walked out and took off the mask, and we are seeing Robert Downey Jr. will be playing Dr. Doom in, I believe, the new Marvel's movie Doomsday and anything.
The Avengers.
The Avengers, correct.
Yes.
And so, yes, it has split the audience and it has split the opinions of myself and the Freakish Workshop. So we're going to take a few minutes here to discuss our opinions on it. There are some of us who feel that this is a great thing for the MCU, a little bit of nostalgia, but a little bit of fun. And then there's the people who are wrong. And I'm going to let you guys
figure that one. I wasn't expecting that.
I'm going to let you guys figure out which one that is. But no, I completely understand everyone's opinion. You can start off, sir. Give me your elevator pitch. Why is the problem with Mr. Robert Downey Jr. coming back into the MCU as Doctor Doom?
So I do want to start off in the fact and just say I get the excitement. Don't get me wrong. When I saw him back on a Marvel stage with the Russo brothers, like just to top it off, I was absolutely excited. 100%. Yes. Yeah. I had actually had way more people agree with me than disagree with me when I put up on my Instagram saying, is anyone else, I think I said profoundly disappointed. And the reason I say that is I think if there had been so there's a couple layers to me. If there was a precedent of we have seen multiple Tonys through like the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and we had seen that Tony was not a fixed point, that he was across different universes and there's different versions of him in the same way that we saw Doctor Strange. There's the very tyrannical version of Strange. There's very peaceful, like peace-loving versions of Strange. Then introducing one that was absolutely off his rocker, and he's Doom. Now, I don't know if they're actually going to play him as like a tyrannical Doom, because there's also the Doom that my favorite story of Dooms, and honestly, I'll be completely honest, probably one of my favorite storylines of Marvel is the infamous Iron Man. You see the true, I don't want to say anti-hero or anti-villain, because I think that's just thrown over, like around way too often. But this idea that Doom realizes there needs to be an Iron Man, and he's like, there's literally no one else but me. And so I'm going to take that on. And then wrestling with the AI of Tony on, but what does Iron Man actually stand for? Is it the suit? Is it the man in the suit? What does that look like? That wrestling, and then eventually his sort of surrender of the moniker, makes Doom a very deep character that I don't think that the MCU will be able to explore, because everyone's just going to go, well, and I've heard two things. I've heard he's playing a Tony Stark that is Doom, which is absolutely comic book canon. I've also heard that he's not, that he is playing Victor Von Doom. He is playing a completely different person. I was trying to Google beforehand, just as you were introducing us, whether or not Doctor Doom is a fixed point in the multiverse, the same way that Galactus is a fixed point, that Thanos, there's only ever one. I just couldn't get there in time. My understanding is that he is, but then maybe he isn't. I think even if you like that RDJ is coming back, you also have to, that comes with an acceptance that it is a cash grab. It's MCU going, we're losing people. I think Deadpool and Wolverine has done a great job. I haven't seen it, obviously, but a great job of pulling everyone back. Everyone's like, this is what I wanted it to be. This is what Marvel should be. Blah, blah, blah. All that, hyperbolic nonsense. Well-deserved nonsense, but, I think this is a bit more of a cry for help than it may seem from my end of things. And then on top of it, I just, coming from, again, most of my information on Doom has come from tertiary and sort of side conversations and other readings. But mostly I focused on the infamous Iron Man series, where they did an absolute character study on Doom, but also Iron Man. And so that relationship now being presented in the MCU, my opinion is that RDJ was the wrong person. I do have a fan cast that I don't know if anyone would agree with me on this. Excuse me. Jason Clarke is actually my fan cast for Doom. He was in Zero Dark 30. He was in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. But in particular, there is one scene in First Man where it's the why is this not coming up in my head here? First Man. He plays Ed White, and it's the Neil Armstrong story. There's a moment where Neil Armstrong is kind of putting himself down, and it's in the moonlight. Everyone's dark. He's sort of half lit, and so these crazy deep, sharp shadows, and Jason Clarke's face just kind of goes and just goes cold, and he just like tells him to give up. And like I just went, oh my goodness, that is villain material. Like that is a Doctor Doom of like, I don't care that you have the Avengers on my front door. You're not supposed to be here because this is my country. Like just having that legal precedent. So that's my fan cast. I understand fan casts don't exist, but I just wanted to share that. So
Okay. All right. Well, I think you make some very valid points. I think the Iron Man story is a very good one to go off of. I would agree with that. That if you were going to pick a storyline, that is the one to go with. My feelings. I have a few feelings on this. So obviously, like you said, when it was first announced, oh wow, he's back. This is going to be cool. Let's first start off with anybody that believes that this is going to be a comic book storyline brought into a film. You obviously have not watched any Marvel movies in the past.
Yes, absolutely.
There have been creative liberties all the time.
Yeah.
So saying we want a comic accurate Doctor Doom, you're never going to get it. Because you've never had anything like that in the past. You've had tastes of it.
Yes.
But you've never been like, that is Logan in this storyline. Like, there are bits of Old Man Logan in the Logan movie.
Yep.
Spoiler, there is a bit of Old Man Logan in Deadpool. There's little bits here and there, but you will never get a continuous story.
No.
Do I think RDJ will do a good job as Doom? Yes. Because I feel like as an actor, he has got such a wide range from his various roles. I do think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people worry that it is going to be Tony Stark as Doctor Doom. And I don't see him doing that. I don't think Marvel would want that. We have had, obviously, based off previous Marvel movies, we've had actors come back and play multiple characters. Chris Evans twice. The thing I am wondering is, are they going to do a Mandarin style gimmick where he is Doom, but in the end he's not Doom? And my thought is they might do something where, one of Doom's things in some of the iterations is he has been horribly disfigured. And my thought is, do we do it where he has been disfigured and he comes back looking like Tony Stark?
Okay, so what you're saying is he kind of takes on the persona to try and get by? Is that what you're saying?
Almost like a Hush. Almost like a Hush.
Interesting.
He has been disfigured, and the best way for him to come back is to come back in what he feels would be a hero, almost as a FU to the rest of the world, because this was your hero who lost his life to save everybody, and now he's using it as an insult.
Kind of in the same way that he creates like the Dark Avengers, or not, he doesn't, sorry. Norman Osborn, when he's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., creates the Dark Avengers from villains in particular.
Exactly.
Interesting. That's an interesting take. I think the only way, the range thing, and obviously we can do a whole podcast on this. The range thing's interesting because I've seen a lot of what RDJ has done. Not all of it. I'm just going to put it out there. I've seen him play essentially Tony Stark in Sherlock, and then essentially Tony Stark in Dr. Dolittle, essentially Tony Stark in The Judge, and then I've seen him in what am I thinking of? Oppenheimer. And that is the farthest away from Tony Stark I've seen RDJ play. Now, he could be amazing. The one thought was, well, he's not going to look like Tony Stark because Dr. Doom in almost every iteration is horribly scarred. In fact, the infamous Iron Man is one of the bigger storylines where he's not, and he's like open-faced. He's more just wearing like the green tie type deal, and that's the Doom reference.
Mhm.
So I thought you also have him in a metal mask the entire time, so he could just voice it. He could do a Pedro Pascal with the Mandalorian, where he's there for some bigger scenes, but really it could just be a stunt double and he's doing the voice for it. I don't think RDJ would want that. I think he's a very in the suit kind of person. But at the same time, I think you also brought up good points. I really do.
I think we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
I think so too.
I think Marvel is also very good at when they see something not working, they know how to pivot. I think also we have another villain on our doorstep.
We do, yes.
If you saw, spoiler, we're not going to get into a deep dive in this, but the Fantastic Four did show a trailer during San Diego Comic-Con.
They did.
And there was a really big head looking into a bunch of windows.
Yes, sir.
Which means a big guy in purple and blue is not far behind. So if something doesn't work and RDJ doesn't do what everyone wants and it flops, the big man Galactus could be ready to take over and rip apart the world.
For those who don't know, I do a lot of writing in my spare time, and I actually had like a whole next phase of Marvel written out, fan casted and everything, where Doom was actually like, he knew that if Thanos was defeated, because he was defeated, something else was coming, and tried to do like a Ultron, like, I need to prepare the world for something that happens, that something's coming. There's obviously something coming. You just created a power vacuum, right? So that whole type of deal, Dark Avengers and all that kind of stuff. So you're totally right. I think they have a plan A, which is a very attractive plan A, but they also have a very attractive plan B.
Yep. So we will have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, we're not going to jump into too much more news because we got a lot to talk about. We got 10 games to go over before we jump into those 10 games, though. As always, we have a sponsor here on the show. If you're new here, it's the same sponsor every single week until someone throws me a couple dollars. And even if they do, they will still be second place next to the sponsor. And that sponsor is always going to be my lovely wife. She has put up with me for so long. She has been more than okay with me being up in this room, this crowded, covered in cosplay supplies room for the past couple days, getting stuff ready for Fan Expo Canada. Hun, you will always be my sponsor. I love you. Thank you very much for dealing with me and being in my life. Thank you so much. Okay, we're ready to talk about the 10 games that deserve a remake or reboot. Now, before we get into this, the words remake, reboot, remaster, port, all those things, they get confusing. So I've got the definitions of each one because we want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what we're going to be talking about. So we're talking about a remake or a reboot. So a port, for those wondering, is transferring and optimizing a video game to run on another platform. That's it. Which an example would be the GTA collection that came out recently. It is simply a very bad port from probably the worst version of the game. Don't even get me started. I was so happy when I saw that, and then it just fell apart. Anyways, a remaster is an improvement on the visuals and game without interfering in any other aspects. So that would be something like The Last of Us going from PS3 to PS4. Simple transfer, not a big change. What we're talking about is a remake or a reboot. So remake, a redesign of a game while retaining its key characters and story elements. The Resident Evil remakes. It's the same game basically, but they have rebuilt it from top to bottom and changed a couple things here and there. A reboot, a new game in a fresh storyline, including some elements of the original game, the PS3 Tomb Raiders.
Great example. Phenomenal reboots. Oh my goodness.
100%. Love them. I actually just played the first one, replayed the first one recently, and it was a blast to run through it.
I just finished Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm looking for another kind of adventure game. So I should do that. I have it. So I think I have the first two. I completely forgot about Tomb Raider. Man, dude, you're on your game today.
And that Ghost has been sitting on my PS5 for a while, and I keep saying I gotta play it, and I don't. I don't.
It's so good. Like
I don't know if I've said this on the show, but I really want to stress this. I'm of the age where I'm like, I don't understand Twitch. I don't understand the point of sitting there watching somebody play a video game. It's the weirdest concept to me. Until I went to my buddy's place and he was playing Ghost of Tsushima. And he's like, oh, this is that Ghost game. I'm like, oh, cool. And I sat down next to him. And about 15 minutes later, I've been watching him play. And I'm like, this is Twitch. I just needed a really good game to watch.
Yeah, 100%.
So
it's so good. Is it like, I've heard people tout it's the most beautiful game that's ever been. It's really not. It's a very pretty looking Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what it is. But it's also amazing. It's so much fun to play. Definitely recommend it. But.
All right. So let's jump in a little bit. A couple rules here. We are not going to be really using the ones that are direct ports. So we're not going to talk about stuff like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, stuff like that. You can get those on
GoldenEye.
Yeah, you can get those on Nintendo Direct. Like it's really easy to get those games now. We could just go through. We could do a list of just Nintendo at this point. We really want to focus on games that time has kind of forgotten, but we loved. And yeah, anything that's and the other one is really anything that's easily accessible with retro consoles and stuff like that. So you won't be hearing, like I said, Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Ocarina, all those classics that we all love, but you can still get them thanks to Nintendo Direct. So if you guys came for that, please stick around because there's really some good games here, but those will not be on the list. So I've got 5, you've got 5. We're going to kick things off, but before we one last thing, we're going to talk about 2 things. These are not on either of our lists. However, we are big enough video game fans to know that if we don't mention these, we are going to get downvoted like crazy. So first, we've got Dino Crisis. Folks, I never played it.
Me neither.
I'm a giant Resident Evil fan. I've never played Dino Crisis. I want to, but it's a pain in the arse to get now. And there hasn't been, it's not easily available in the PlayStation Store. Capcom released they called it the Super Elections, which was basically fan voted polls on favorite series, favorite characters, etc. Dino Crisis won 5 polls and was in the top 3 of almost every other one. The fans want a remake to this. I don't understand why they haven't done it yet, or at least made a new one. There was one, I think, for the PS2 or the PS3 that flopped. Let's just remake this. It makes everybody happy. And July 1st was the 25th anniversary, so you had the perfect opportunity to do it.
It's true. It's true.
So that one is off the list. I'm sorry, like I said, we didn't have it on ours because we're not playing it. And last, Half-Life. Again.
You gotta.
I didn't play it. I'm not a PC guy. If it was Portal, I would say yes. But I'm not a Half-Life guy. I know the fandom is huge. It looks amazing. It's just not in my wheelhouse. But obviously, everyone would love to have even Half-Life 3 at this point. So,
and then just before we jump on, I wanted to say, because I didn't, I don't know. It's been a while since I actually posted this, but this is the mask that I wore in the thumbnail, guys. The original design is actually by a guy named KENSUKE.creations on Instagram. He did a bunch of masks from older classic systems, NES, that kind of stuff. This was the PlayStation version. I wanted to make it like do a cyberpunk kind of mask as the design. So, and then he did one with like the Switch, and he did one with kind of the updated systems, which I thought was really, really cool. So go ahead and check him out because he's a phenomenal kind of manga cyberpunk looking artist. Yeah, just wanted to shout him out. So
yeah, he sent me the photo of that mask, and my jaw dropped. I was like,
I thought it's a cool PlayStation 1 mask revamped. It's rebooted. It's something new. So I thought it was appropriate.
All right. Justice Smith in chat saying Onimusha should use a remake too. Agreed. I loved Onimusha 1 and 2. They did re-release it on the PS4. But yeah, I would totally agree with that. And what else? I'd also be happy with the Code Veronica remake. It's on its way.
I'll be honest, I was never I grew up. I didn't really play video games until much later. Like I think the PlayStation, like I played the PlayStation 1, I played the PlayStation 2, but really my memories came from the PlayStation 3. And then on top of that, it was never really horror games. So I can appreciate Resident Evil everything. I just never played it. I've never been interested in playing them, but I think they're really cool. So
yeah. Okay, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, I'm going to start with I'm going to say a reboot.
Okay.
I'm going to call it a reboot. Star Wars Republic Commandos. Now, I'm calling it a reboot because there is a port currently for the original, I believe, on Steam. I would love just a reboot. I think the squad mechanics was phenomenal, but I think I would love to see something like Ghost Recon Wildlands with the Republic Commandos, where you actually have some really good squad mechanics and stealth mechanics, a lot of customization. You're on a planet that's besieged, or you're trying to like break apart the separatist hold on this planet in preparation for a fleet, and you're working with the locals. Very Ghost Recon open world type deal. I think that would be a great sandbox, a title, to throw at a sandbox format. So that's why that's my kind of reboot bid is Star Wars Republic Commandos.
I like that idea. So this is a game that I have not played. Obviously, it's got the Xbox logo. So this would be 3 to 4 people online.
So up to 3 to 4 people.
Okay.
I've never played with anyone on Ghost Recon Wildlands,
Okay.
but you have 3 AI basically, and you're a squad leader. You can tell them where to go. You can tell them to set up. And more importantly, one of the coolest things, I think, and that it wasn't even Ghost Recon Wildlands that introduced it. I believe it was another of the Ghost Recon games, was you have this essentially targeting system where you can tell your AI to pick one of your targets, and then all at one time, you all shoot at the same time. And then 4 guys drop. And so you're kind of using that to take out a sniper here and this dude in the doorway. And so you're controlling your squad that way. It wasn't phenomenal AI work. Like obviously the characters are like running in the middle of nowhere and getting the enemies alerts and all that kind of stuff. But I think that idea of this, you're a squad commander in an open world where stealth is probably the main thing you should really be focused on tactically. I think Republic Commandos fits that really, really well. Plus, I think no one's going to say no to an open world Star Wars game. So with character customization, specifically clones. So I think that'd be really, really cool.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think that would do really well nowadays, especially with the online community. You can have your own groups together and go on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could do like DLC skin bundles where it's all like the Clone Wars animation style. You could have like Rex, Cody, Fox, like, you know what I mean? You could get those specific clones. I think that'd be really cool. If you did some decal work where you could put like, your like decals on the armor, customized, that would be really cool too. I just think the Republic Commandos, like Star Wars, has been blown. It's either this like super personal story like Fallen Order, or it's like way too big, like Battlefront, where it's this like it's a war or it's one thing. And I think Republic Commandos puts a really good spot, and even the Clone Wars shows gets a really good, like there's also these other kind of medium-sized stories that you can explore, and a sandbox format would be phenomenal for this title. So
I like it. Disney, you listening? It's making some good points. Start working on it. You got enough money off Battlefront. Make this.
I don't think they have anything bringing RDJ back. They probably
That's true.
All the Christmas bonuses were spent on that.
Mickey's giving out coal this year. All right, let's go into my first pick. This is the game that sort of started this discussion with the Freakish Workshop and I, because I cosplayed the second version of this game, and we discussed, man, this was such a good game. They should reboot it.
We had a bit of a nerd love moment there.
A little bit, and that is Infamous.
Oh, so good.
This is a game. A series of games, even the last one, was such a fun game, and with the superhero genre being what it is now, with how good Spider-Man is,
Mm-hmm.
to a degree how good the Marvel game was, Marvel Avengers. It's such an opportune time to bring in a superhero that doesn't have a brand next to it, doesn't have a Marvel or a DC or an Image, if you want to even go that way. This was a game that showed you had moral choices
that actually affected the world as
that
well.
really
Like,
affected the world,
affected the world.
affected your choices later, which I know a
Mhm.
lot of people have problems with when a game comes out and says these decisions are going to impact you later, and they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they might change like one personality line. Like even the I always loved the Telltale Walking Dead and that series because it was all decision making. But the problem was I realized after the third or fourth one, and it really hit me when I started to play the Borderlands one, there was many decisions where there were no win situations, where where it was either you say a jerk line to make one person mad, or you say a jerk line to make another person mad. This one gave you a positive outcome and a negative outcome. So if you wanted to be a jerk, you had that option. But if you wanted to play hero, you could choose that one. The gameplay was fun, running around, sliding on wires. The electricity combat was great.
The parkour was really, really cool to see as well. Like,
it was so fun. And it wasn't the one thing I like about this, and it's something that a lot of games have to deal with now, is it feels like when they make let's call it, it's not 3, let's say 10-hour game, the first 3 to 4 to 5 hours is story and world building. And then you really get into it. This one, they threw you right in. This is Cole. This is what he does. He's got powers.
Also, the comic book way for the cinematics being in the comic book form, super cool.
Exactly. And you got little sprinkles of that throughout the story and throughout the game. You didn't just get backloaded with, here's everything you need to know. Go have fun. It was, go have fun. We're going to tell you the story throughout, which I really appreciate.
I think the first cutscene was like all of 3 minutes.
Yep.
Like, and then you get dropped in. You're like, hey, go meet me over here. You're like, okay. You jump off a building and you're good to go.
Yep. So that is my choice. Infamous. Like I said, they had the PS3 one, and I felt like, that didn't get the reception they wanted. They really wanted number 1 and number 2 numbers. Bring it back.
I think it has to do with the character, to be honest. Like, I understand at some point Cole needed to spoiler alert, needed to die or sacrifice himself or whatever. But honestly, that character was a cool character. And then just to kind of throw I don't mean this in a bad way, just a very good descriptor, sort of Black Veil Brides, emo punk rocker, character in where, like, I don't know why I'm supposed to care about you. Yeah. I think that was unfortunate, but I also understand the need to include a new character, a new person. But yeah,
I think there was actually a mission where it was like you have to save the youth center, and I was like, really?
I think honestly though, I also think the powers just weren't as cool. Like, let me get this straight: you're either like super awesome, like Palpatine lightning user, or you use smoke. Like, I'm going to choose lightning every single time.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump into number 2. What do you got?
Okay. So we did the reboot. I'm going to go with the Transformers War for Cybertron. Because, well, I don't even need to explain myself. It was such a cool game. The animation was really cool. The art style was phenomenal. You finally got to get and be a part of the war that you've always heard about. You got to see, like, it was that weird in between where I think there was a show, the Transformers Cybertron show that was out on Netflix for a while, where, like, okay, so Optimus has always sort of been a semi-truck. You know what I mean? Like, Bumblebee has always sort of been this, like, small roadster car. But it was just a lot of fun to be able to swap between the classes. You get the different guns. The storyline was really, really engaging, in my opinion. But it also didn't feel like a Michael Bay where he's like, I'm going to make the Transformers look totally different. Except for, like, some color schemes. This was like, no, that's very obviously a car, and that's obviously RC, and that's obviously supposed to be a T-Rex. How did the Cybertronians know what a T-Rex is? It doesn't matter. It's a robot T-Rex. It's an alien T-Rex. It's fine. The two games, in my opinion, the first one it just has that nostalgia attachment. The second one, honestly, was just as good, if not better, because the controls got to a bit more smooth. Although I think the one thing that the second one didn't have that the first one did was a wave mode, a horde mode, and I played so many rounds of that on the first one. Also, just really good voice acting. Like, you got to, like, there's a new Megatron guy, loved him. Starscream was phenomenal. Jetfire was phenomenal. All of these original guys. But then you also got to see a bit more of the culture of the Autobots compared to the Decepticons. So I thought the games were phenomenal. And again, a lot of these choices come from PlayStation 3s because a lot of my memories are from that era. But I think they either need, like, not a port. I think they need go back in, make the campaign longer, remake it, maybe keep this, like, hire back the same art team, because honestly the art is so cool, but just get back in there and pull it out, especially with Transformers trying to make a bit more of like a revitalization, especially with combining with G.I. Joe and everything. I think this is a good time to get a very good, playable, approachable Transformers game.
I agree on every bit of that. There has been very few Transformers games that I've been interested in. Those two, I loved them.
Well, there's also just so many opportunities for DLC.
Yeah.
Like, you have do the Predacon DLC, the Insecticon DLC, can, like, do all of that. And within the war, you have so many, like, Optimus, like, we're too busy, Megatron's doing something. Bumblebee, go check this out, and then he has to fight the Insecticons. Like, those like DLC missions where you're not buying an entire game that are like, they only should be about $15. Probably only like, they're probably gonna get charged 40, but those missions, there's just so many opportunities. Do a horde mode where you're the Beasticons and you're on that one planet from Beast War, or not the Beast Wars, but like, do a Beast Wars DLC, do a Beast Wars game. Like, I think there's just so many opportunities there. So
yep. No, I love them. It's frustrating that we can't get them anymore, because I think it was the licensing has run out on them and they just didn't renew it. And I
have them on the PlayStation 3 still, and I'm like, I booted it up and just immediately, like, my whole body was like, oh, this is so good.
I know that feeling. That's a good one. That when you told me that one, I was like, shit, that's a good choice.
Yeah, you had a couple good ones too, where I was like, oh my goodness, it's good. So,
all right, let's jump into my number 2. This one I have been playing a little bit of because there is a port available on the PS5 now, and I know that because I have number 1 and number 2. However, I do believe Turok does deserve a reboot / remake / something, because, and I do feel like this does not fall into the rules we set earlier, because the PS3 one is not available anywhere. Shadow of Oblivion, Rage Wars, and the Evolution for PS2 are also not available. So most
essentially dead in the water.
Yeah, most of them, besides these 2 nostalgia ones, are not available anymore. So I feel like this franchise really suffered when the PS3 came out, because I felt like the PS3 was in a world where they were still trying to compete really hard with Xbox, and they wanted to bring out their big guns, but I don't think they knew what to do with those big guns. And we got the PS3 version of Turok, and it was just another bland shooter that didn't keep any of the essence of the original series. And I feel like this, with the technology we have now, we could do so much more with this. Folks, it's guns and dinosaurs. Why does this thing not work all the time? Like, this is one of those generational things that every boy and probably every girl has looked at and went, this is cool. Why are we not doing this? And with games like Horizon Zero Dawn and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that, this is a perfect opportunity to do an open world game, a third person shooter, a third person over the shoulder with story. You know, what's Turok's background, find out more about him, his tribe, all those things. I think this would be a great one. You've got and folks, this isn't just a video game. There is this is based off a comic book series, so you have comic book to reference as well. Yep, you have comic books to reference off this too. So yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. The ports did well, from what I know. A limited run released them originally as physical media, and then PlayStation just went, we're just going to put them on the PlayStation, and they did, and I'm so glad to own them. It's so fun going back. But yeah, this deserves a complete reboot. Let's start from scratch. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. I think that's the only way to do many of these. Like, I think the War for Cybertron, you need to have the story, you need to have the characters. Turok, same thing. You have to have some semblance of it. But go back in and just go, this is not the old ones. We're not trying to be the old ones, but we're trying to capture what the old ones accomplished.
Yep.
So, no.
100%.
That one was the one where I was like, oh my goodness, my brain was like flooding me with memories of Turok. It was good. Very good.
All right. What do you got next, sir?
Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm going to PC.
Okay.
This is a very niche one, but I still think it deserves it. Lord of the Rings: Battle for Middle Earth. This was a not TTRPG, but like a real-time strategy RTS game where you were building. You had a camp. In the first one, you had land, and you were building a camp or a castle, and you had specific building plots that you could only build in these areas. And then the second one, they and you followed the Fellowship, the campaign mode, because you're building armies and giving them like sharp blades and better armor and all that kind of stuff. And you have the heroes as well. It's very StarCraft, Imperial Legion or whatever. I can't remember the Star Wars one was. I think Star Wars Imperial Legion. Anyway, the second one allowed you to kind of build wherever you wanted, but then that also increased the risk of, well, if you put something way out in the boonies, you can't defend it, you're going to lose it. Also introduced, so in the first one, it was only, I believe it was only men, orcs. Oh yeah, so men were split up between the Rohirrim, Gondor, orcs, and Uruk-hai, sorry. And then in the second one, you had the Men of the West, so it was combined. You had elves, you had dwarves, and then you had goblins, orcs, and Uruk-hai. The goblins were really cool because it was completely brand new units that were pulled from like Jackson's kind of unused artwork, as well as like there was like spider riders, which were like really cool goblins on big spiders with spears. It was really like, it kind of kicked up the ante on the fantasy side of Lord of the Rings and just kind of took it up a notch. But it also introduced some really, really cool mechanics. So that one was, I want to say, over... He's almost 20 years now since the last game, and it was a licensing issue as well. But I've actually, you can buy it, the port. I have it, and it's super fun to play. It's still very playable. I think just with Rings of Power, however you feel about that show, I think Lord of the Rings, and with the new Hunt for Smeagol, this is a good time for Lord of the Rings to come out with a video game. But Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle Earth, if you haven't played it, I definitely recommend it if you like those kind of games, because I do.
Yeah, that's a license that will always print money. I feel that's got a dedicated fan base, and I am not an RTS gamer, but I completely understand why people love those games, and I think putting those two together is a no-brainer. Like with the history, like you said, the character selection, if you put that license into the world without any video games and said, what type of game would you do? that's the game that 95% of people would probably want to make.
They want to fight the wars. They want to fight in Helm's Deep. Like, it's the one thing where, like, for example, going back to Ghost of Tsushima, there's a show coming out apparently being developed. I'm like, but why? Like, what are they going to do? Because we just played the show.
Yeah.
So, and there's not really decision making. It's just dialogue choices. So, like, why am I going to want to watch the thing I just played versus in Lord of the Rings, in the Battle for Middle Earth, for example, and other Lord of the Rings games, for example, like Age of Conquest, or Lord of the Rings Conquest, sorry. You're playing these battles and you're just playing just random soldiers. And you're playing these massive, like in the second one, they introduced a mechanic where you can click the little toggle on your mouse and you can make all your units form up into like actual formations with the archers behind the soldiers and everything, where other you'd have to do that by hand and like, okay, we're gonna go here to angle them right and then go that way and then okay, the next guy goes this way. You could do that. It was so much fun. So much fun. My brother and my dad are cheering right now because that was like that's a game all three of us remember playing and it was a lot of fun. So
nice. I like it. All right, so we're working our way through our list. This one for me, I think when I say it, everyone's gonna go, "Of course he picked that one." Dude, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. I mean, that guy standing there might play part of the reason why I chose this game.
I don't know what you're talking about. Who is that? Who is that, Michael? Can you help explain?
Might be because I have a cosplay of Dash Rendar. And I think I'm like one of 4 people in the world who has a cosplay of this character. But no, like this is something that obviously a game that I loved growing up. Even though I didn't beat it, I played it all the time when I rented it. But I think this is something that Star Wars has had a problem lately, and I feel like Marvel's running into it, and DC might run into it with James Gunn, where we're bringing in a lot of characters that are just, they're new, they're too deep, they're not the figureheads that everybody wants. And I know there's the argument of, you know, Iron Man wasn't a figurehead when he first started and all that. So I get that. But you've got all these characters, especially from what I've read about the new show, the Acolyte show. These are a lot of characters that a lot of people just don't seem to connect with. This game has that same sort of thing. However, this is a little bit of nostalgia for the people who read the series and played the game back then. I am not a hardcore Star Wars fan. However, I really liked him as a main character and has allowed me the opportunity to get more involved with Star Wars because reading stuff about him in the comic books, and I don't read books, but I would like to possibly read one of the Shadow of the Empire's novels. It makes me more interested in the series. And I feel like if you brought a character like a Dash Rendar into the fandom with a reboot or a remake or whatever you want to do with this, I feel like it would be a great thing for the franchise. It would boost the nostalgia a little bit more without stepping all over Luke, Leia, and the 5-6 main characters that we know so well.
Well, and I think in defense of what you're saying, I think there's a reason why some pieces of media do better in the Star Wars, and as much as wow, my brain's not working today. Better than others. What are the shows that include really cool characters that have really interesting storylines and don't affect the movies that we're already watching? Andor.
Yep.
You've got The Mandalorian, because that happens after. Just to name a few. You've got shows that go, what's out there right now is good. We're going to tell you how these things got there, or we're just going to do our entire different thing. The Solo introduced a side of Han Solo that we weren't really interested in. Nope. Like, cool, very cool. It was so cool to see Ray Parker as Maul again. Let me tell you. Spoiler alert. It was, but like, that's the only thing I can really remember from the show. It was cool to see Chewie again, I guess. But you're also stepping on a character. You're taking this character as like, hey, you know that thing you really like? I'm going to play with it. The Acolyte goes, hey, you know everything you know about the Force and Anakin? I'm going to play with that. Right? Versus Andor, and I would say even Rogue One goes, there are two events. You have the plans being stolen, and you have the beginning of the New Hope, of a New Hope. How did this happen? We're going to show you how that happens. Oh, and by the way, everyone dies so that they can't affect the rest of the movie. Versus there's a big, like, I remember when the show was coming out, because I waited until the Acolyte was done. People were going like, is he going to survive? How is he going to survive? He's not in the movies, which means he's just going to do one of the most important things in the Jedi Order and then like go meditate or something or disappear, or like it's going to be such a dumb ending. You have to kill these people off. So when you have an Andor show where it's like this thing that doesn't touch the original content that you guys really liked, let's, instead of doing this, we're going to do this and not touch any of the events and just play around in this other area. Which from what it sounds like, this like Dash Rendar does, Shadow of the Empire does. So I think you've got something there for sure.
Yep. Fingers crossed. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right. Where are we going next?
We are going Army of Two. Again, so this one was one of those, I think the fan base just died off. I think third-person shooters with Call of Duty kind of died off for a while. I think playing an entire game where you really need someone else to play with died off. Kind of happened around the end of LAN parties as well. Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel introduced new characters. Spoiler alert, one of the characters from the first two movies ends up being bad, ends up being the antagonist. Not a great choice when it comes to some super iconic characters like Army of Two, for example. However, we're seeing a lot of two-player co-ops come back. You're seeing It Takes Two. You're seeing a bunch of Steam games where couples can play together. Couples, there are couples out there that love to play Call of Duty together. I'm just saying. So Army of Two is a great choice. Army of Two has a lot of character customization, the gun customization on how you want to specialize. You could take a sniper rifle and put a red dot sight on it if you wanted. Like, it was so much fun. The aggro mechanics of when one person is laying down heavy fire, the AI is going to focus on that person, was a lot of fun to play around with. Sometimes it was like comical. Like, the aggro was so bad, I think, in the first one, where like you could just be in like out of cover, and as long as your friend was firing, you weren't going to get shot. It was so bad, but it was so much fun because it was new, and like you could visually see it, right? Because like there was these like red zones and all that. This needs, I wouldn't even say a remake. I would say a reboot. Just make a new game. And I think people would come to it. Go back to the original characters. I'm pretty sure Nolan North voiced one of the characters. Yes. I'm sure he would say yes to coming back because he doesn't really say no to many things nowadays, which, bless him. Thank you, Nolan. I appreciate you not saying no to many things. But yeah, it'd be really cool to see this title back on a Sony kind of a presentation again. So I definitely think Army of Two. If you haven't played it, you're missing out. Honestly, you're missing out.
Yeah, I remember playing, I think it was the second one, Devil's Cartel, and I had a lot of fun playing it. And then, yeah, it just kind of, they had the one other one, the 40 days or whatever was the...
So that's actually the second one.
That's the second one.
So there's Army of Two, 41 days or 41st day or something like that. And then Devil's Cartel is the third one. You can see like the W is the 3.
Got it.
But yeah, the second one was great because it wasn't just mercenary work. There was a bit more of a story involved. So yeah, lots of fun.
Cool.
Lots of late nights playing this game with friends.
Shots fired, Crystal. Jeez. What's that like? Mine plays like a teenager who never touched a controller. And that's okay. If he's not a gamer, he's not a gamer. It's not the end of the world. Just never play COD with him because it's going to get destroyed in about 10 seconds. All right. We had someone higher up in the chat. Let me quickly run up here. Someone said we need to remake. Justin in the chat said, I'd like to see them remake SmackDown. here comes the pain. As a wrestling fan, I completely agree. It is one of the best. However, with roster updates and such, we cannot do that. AEW kind of did their version a little while ago with their game, and it sucked. However, there is a game back in the day that is incredible, and I feel we can do again. Def Jam Fight for New York. Folks, if you are a rap fan, folks, if you're a hip-hop fan, folks, if you're a wrestling fan, this is the game for you. This was so fun, and it is still probably one of the games from the PS2 era that, whether it's inbox, whether it's damage box, whatever, people will pay high dollars for this game because it is still a fun game to play. I pull it out once a year at least, throw it in my PS2, and I have a blast with it. Basically what this is it is a bunch of hip-hop stars, a bunch of rap stars in a wrestling ring beating the crap out of each other and have insane finishing moves that are a blast. You've got Snoop Dogg in it. You've got who else? You've got Redman. You've got Method Man. You've got all these amazing '90s rappers all together. And then there's characters in this one specifically. You've got Carmen Electra in it as a wrestler. You've got Henry Rollins in it. It was so fun. It's the character customization in this is so fun as well. I love this game. Anybody that played it still thinks it's a great game. And folks, we could do this now because the music industry is so big now. You could do a new era and have people like, what?
And my brain just went, I really want to see Jelly Roll take on Taylor Swift.
You could do I actually have it on my list. Like, you could have Jelly Roll in it. You could have Eminem, MGK, 50 Cent, Tech Nine, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B. We could smash
the Drake and Kendrick beef.
Exactly.
Right then and there.
Exactly. You could do all these really cool things. And even if you want to do, like in this game in particular, Snoop Dogg is the villain in this, and you sort of have two different sides warring at each other. You could do a new school versus old school version and have Eminem, Dre, Snoop, Jay-Z versus people like MGK, Run the Jewels, Lamar, Travis Scott, all these new hip hop kids out there. And I say kids because they're younger than me. And hell, if you don't want to do rap, you could do a metal version or a rock version and have metal icons. And like, you could do so many things with this. I feel like it's an opportunity that is sadly just being left out. Icon, the third one, came out for the PS3, and I feel like this had the same problem as Turok, where this one did so well. They're like, we need to capitalize on it on a new system, and they just did not do it justice. When you have what's his name is on the cover. Crap, it's gonna bug me. Give me a second. Keep talking. Talk amongst yourselves. What's your thoughts on this game while I figure this out?
I never played this game. I had people who played. I knew people who played this game. But no, it was never my big thing. It was never really big into wrestling. It was never a big kind of. I grew up just listening to Christian music for most of like my childhood into the teens. So it wasn't like I just wasn't part of that world for the longest time. So it'd be fun. Like, that's something I would watch on Twitch. Let me say that would be something I'd watch on Twitch. If there was a charity stream where then they had all the people like come in and play their characters and play it on Twitch and whatever, I'd donate to that. Absolutely. I think that'd be a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's taking too long. Anyways, it was not someone that was big in the rap game. And I don't believe, now that I think about it, I don't think it was the cover, but I think it was someone who they were really pushing as like, this is the main character, the main star of the game. And
the main icon.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it was not well received. But yeah, I think you can do so much with this game now.
I just remember looking at the cover and thinking it was so edgy.
Yeah.
And then you look in, you're like, wait, I'm sorry. Who's fighting who?
Yeah. All right. What's next?
All right. My final choice is...
we're in our last choices.
We are. and I left it for last because it is so near and dear to me. And that is Resistance Fall of Man. Resistance Fall of Man honestly took aliens versus humans and really did it justice, did it well. In my opinion, I think it was a more realistic take on how humans would react to an alien invasion. The premise of the story, if you guys don't know, is it's essentially where World War II would have kicked off, except all of a sudden Russia goes dark, and then the countries around it start to go dark. There's a wall that's put up to try and stop whatever it is, and you find out it's this alien race called the Chimera, who they infect humans with little cockroaches that are released via missiles. They pick them up from octopuses that are in the sky, octopi, and then they go and they mutate them into these chimeran. You can see the skull of these creatures that have a heightened metabolism, and so they heal really quick. And you're this soldier that gets infected, and you get the healing factor, but you don't mutate. So you're a bit of a super soldier. So the first one is you're fighting in Europe. You're an American soldier named Nathan Hale. The guns are phenomenal, like very, in my opinion, iconic looking guns, but not smooth and clean and reflective like Halo, where you've got the purple kind of carapace on all the Covenant weapons. This is very like these things were welded together 2 hours ago, grungy feel. The second one is very, it seems like you jump about 20 years from the second to the first one, even though it's only supposed to take like a year, because you kind of jump into like Cold War era. But so the first one, you're in Europe. The second one, they've invaded America, and so you're fighting in like Chicago and in New York and new different kind of enemies. This time you have a team of super soldiers that you're a part of. Just one of the, like, when I think PlayStation 3, I think Little Big Planet, I think Uncharted, I think Resistance, and I think, I can't really think of any other of the games. Like, those were like the legacy games PlayStation seemed to be kind of pushing with. And then they just sort of dropped it. I know there was a PSP game after the third one. And it's one of those where I'd love to see it picked up again. I don't know how they would do it well. I don't think they would do it well, just because how do you do that story again without it just being a port? Or just like a revamp of the graphics, but it's still a great game. I think it deserves another swing at players.
Yeah, it's you just mentioned, the three of the main games for that system: Uncharted, Little Big Planet, and Resistance. When I think of the PS3 and I think of game covers, this one pops into my head.
Oh, it's so good.
And I never played it.
Oh, really? You never played it?
I slept on that game, and you are probably the 5,000th person to tell me to play it. And I know I missed it. But yeah, even when you said the name to me, we talked about this beforehand, and I said, send me 2 of your choices so I can build a thumbnail. And this was one of them. The name hit a light bulb on me, but I couldn't put my finger on it. As soon as I saw the cover, it all came back to me of like, right, everybody played this when it came out.
Yeah. It had a really cool online. The story was pretty good, in my opinion. The gameplay was very, I would say, stiff, to be completely honest with you. Just the strafing and the walking at the same time, I felt was just a little lacking. But at the same time, the story is great. The character is that, like, he just sort of grunts. That's kind of all he does, but you love him for it. The world is very, very cool. The second one takes that world and just turns it upside down, which is really good for a second game. You're not just replaying the same story beats over and over again. Yeah, it was just a phenomenal shooter. I can imagine it if you take the current Call of Duty mechanics where you can like kind of put yourself up on a wall to shoot a bit steadier. Customization within the guns, I can imagine that being a phenomenal thing where you're taking like alien grenade launchers and throwing them on Tommy guns. Like that'd be super cool to do. Again, the online had some really cool, versatile online modes. You had PvP. You had I'm out of the video game kind of sphere for quite a while, but player against AI, some kind of teamwork kind of based modes. But yeah, no, this was so iconic for PlayStation 3. Again, it was one of those legacy titles that they were like, PlayStation 3, welcome to the world, boom, and let's go. But it also, unlike Uncharted, I would say, it followed Little Big Planet, where the first one was amazing, the second one was actually okay, and then the third one just kind of went and just dropped. And then they've done Little Big Planet stuff since. It's just not the same. They've done, like I said, I think there was 1 or 2 PSP games for Resistance, and it just never landed. For the PSP, but it just never got back to the hype it was, and never carried the weight that the first one did. So,
nope, I agree. This one needs to come back. I think it's a great concept, and yeah, even if they have to just redo it, I still think the idea of it is such a cool idea.
There's not a single game in the roster to come, or one that is out there, that I would pay $80 for currently. I would pay $80 if they just revamped the graphics on Resistance Fall of Man for PlayStation 5. 100%. Like, there's not a question in my mind. I see it, pre-order, like, done. Beautiful. Beautiful game.
I like it. All right. That is all. So do you want to run through quickly yours before I hit my last one?
Yeah, sure. So Resistance Fall of Man, as we just mentioned, Army of Two, Transformers War or Fall for Cybertron, just the Cybertron, that game type, that storyline. And then I have to go back. I've been kind of deleting my list, which is dumb. Star Wars Republic Commandos in a Ghost Recon Wildlands open world sandbox type format, and Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth RTS.
Love it. And my list has been Infamous, Turok, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, Def Jam, and last but not least, the one 2D fighter that did not survive the 16-bit era, Primal Rage. All of the 2D fighters from that decade survived. We've had a new Killer Instinct. We've still got Mortal Kombat. We've still got Street Fighter. We've got Soul Calibur. We've got all these games. Nobody has been able to do Primal Rage like they did back in the day. Folks, if you've never played this, think of Mortal Kombat, except you've got giant dinosaurs, giant apes, giant creatures fighting each other for land dominant, world king building dominance. It is.
Didn't they try and do the movie with Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
That was Rampage.
Okay. Sorry.
Another one that
giant apes, monsters, all that kind of stuff. It kind of blended in. So.
Agreed.
Sorry.
No, this was such a fun game. The controls were a little clunky. I will give them that. It was not the best fighter, but the idea of having these creatures sort of each have their own continent, and you have them sort of act as the gods of that continent and slowly going around the world, taking over different areas to become the lord of the world, was such a cool idea. The creatures were really cool designs. Like I said, you had T-Rexes, you had giant apes, you had giant serpent creatures. It was such a cool idea. And with the popularity of Godzilla and Kong right now, based off the movies, I think this would be a great idea. They had fatalities like Mortal Kombat. Folks,
if you're telling me that the guys that do the Godzilla movies now aren't thinking of like, what's the new final move that Godzilla is going to do or Kong's going to do, and then they go to Mortal Kombat and go, oh yeah, the like ripping the jaw across thing. Yeah, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, and this was one of the games that, you know, I will always say I love my dad for this, because my dad, for those who don't know, my mom and dad were divorced when I was growing up. So I saw my dad on weekends, and he would take me and my sister, and we would go to the arcade down at the local mall. And this was a game that I've spent so many quarters on, and I loved it. And I remember going to the mall with my mom, and I said, this is the game that I love playing. And I started playing it, and she did not enjoy me playing this, because when people say that, you know, Mortal Kombat brought in that ESRB rating, this one was right behind it, because the health bar at the top of your character was an artery that slowly decreased, and when you lost, it ended with a heart that exploded. Not probably the most PG thing for a kid to be playing, but I still had a blast with it. And I think, yeah, with the popularity of Godzilla and Kong and all those creatures, even if it is a Kong version, I think you could do something.
I was going to say, I wonder if you took Primal Rage and you started it off as like Monarch Combat or whatever you want to call it. Monarch Combat. There we go. You've got Mortal Kombat. You have Monarch Combat. You can even add it with the K on the combat. I bet that's not legal whatsoever, so don't listen to me. But like have it that and have the base game be Godzilla and Kong fighting the different Titans. Mm-hmm. And then guess what? The next DLC is Evangelion. You're telling me the next one's Pacific Rim. So you're telling me you don't want you're telling me that no one would be interested in Evo 1 fighting Gypsy Danger? Are you kidding me?
Why do we not own a game studio? We've got all these great ideas. Why?
It's because we're smart.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't fail upwards like some of these people.
Exactly. No, we just play dress up. That's what we do.
We just dress up as these characters.
Yeah.
Justice Smith in chat says Clay Fighter didn't survive either after the N64. Yes, that is true. Clay Fighter was that ended as a Blockbuster exclusive. That
wow.
That N64 Clay Fighter 63 and a third was a Blockbuster exclusive. You could not buy it in stores, so the cartridge is like super expensive now to try and buy it as a resale.
Interesting.
Folks, that is our 10. I think we went through some pretty cool games. This was a lot of nice nostalgia, going through a bunch of games that we've never thought of until we had time to actually sit down and talk about these things. Mm-hmm. I threw up on my socials earlier to see what other people thought.
Oh yeah, what did they say?
Were games that needed reboot. So we've got Rob the Bad Guy said Quake, but like OG Quake or Quake 2.
Okay.
Like
okay.
Sean said Dino Crisis. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Nero Wolf said Panzer Dragon for Dreamcast. Never played it, but it sounds fun.
No, yeah.
And he put ET for the Atari. Shut up. Nobody wants that.
I think they'd have to have the Demon Souls guys.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah,
it's the next Elden Ring DLC.
And then we've got Crystal in chat and on here who went nuts and gave us Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not going to remake that soon. And then Fallout New Vegas and Left 4 Dead. I like those.
Left 4 Dead. Again, I think it's the squad games disappeared.
Yeah.
In the PlayStation 4, Xbox. Is it Xbox One and then X, or is it X and then 1? I don't know. I was a PlayStation guy.
My game systems are numbered correctly. PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's me too. So, but yeah, no, I think that's a good one. Good one, Crystal. Those are good ones.
I like those. Well,
can I also say I'm very impressed with us that we both have Star Wars. Like,
I know.
I think didn't the last one we both agreed on a few Batman. We did. So very good, great minds.
Great minds think alike. I love it.
I dig it.
I like it. Well, we are past the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to let you all get out of here. Folks, if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I should have said this earlier, but guys, it's a podcast. It's YouTube. You know what to do. Smash that like button. It means a lot. Where can people find you, sir? Because like I said earlier, you've got this monster thing that you're building that is...
I should have brought that over here, but
probably about the size of the house that you're going to be buying. Where can people find you for updates on your cosplay, London Comic-Con announcements, and stuff like that?
So when it comes to updates and everything, that's Instagram. That's honestly the only place I'm really at actively. However, you can find me on Etsy and YouTube. I do have a plethora, which, by the way, Michael, I wanted to say, I as a friend, I'm very hurt that you've never tried one of my templates. You know, like if all you had to do was just reach out and ask me, I could have just, you know, provided you like a discount link or something. You I don't know. It just doesn't seem like you promote me at all as a friend. So I just feel hurt. You know,
It doesn't.
So...
It's not that I'm a '90s comic book fan and every bloody cosplay I build has 50 freaking pouches.
No, not at all.
Dread right now has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pouches I've made.
That look amazing. They look amazing. But no, totally, obviously a joke. I appreciate it. So Etsy, I have a bunch of templates on there. Everything from basic pouches that you may have seen Michael use to something more specific. For example, I'm coming out with a Special Forces kind of tactical vest coming up. It's very customizable. It's a bunch of loops and straps that you can add whatever you want to. So you can find me there. All my tutorials are on my YouTube. It's all the Freakish Workshop across Instagram, YouTube, and Etsy. As well as on YouTube, I also have a So You Want to Be a Cosplayer series. If you're interested or know anyone who's interested in joining cosplay community, but they don't know where to start, this series is exactly for them. As well as a foam crafting 101. If you've ever been interested in playing with foam, but you don't really know what to do, I take a deep dive into foam crafting the way I do it and the way a bunch of other people do it, but mostly how I do it. As well as templating, actually. I've dedicated 2 whole episodes to just templating because I know that's something that people are interested in. So go check that out. And again, it's the Freakish Workshop across that. But if you find my logo, which is like a black skull with tusks, that's me. So,
and I will have all the links down below. You can click on those and get all of his stuff. And yes, that YouTube channel, go check it out. I mean, I love mine, but this guy's got a little man named, you may have heard of him if you know the cosplay community and the collectibles community. Cosplay Chris was on his
Mr.
show
Chris Stanley, a
little while ago, and I am a big fan of his. When you messaged me about that, I was super jealous because that was the beginning of my pandemic. I knew everything was being shut down. I was leaving. I was let go from my job temporarily, so I knew I had a lot of time. The first thing I did, everything had not shut down yet, I ran to Value Village and I picked up 2 of the big Batman and Stormtroopers because I was watching his repaints of the stuff, and I'm like, this is my time to do it. So I have a big Stormtrooper and a big Batman that I've repainted off of his tutorials. So
Chris's Custom Collectibles. Yeah, I think I remember I when he first started that series is I think around the time I started watching him as well. So yeah, that episode was fantastic. For those of you who don't know, he's a amazingly talented Australian cosplayer, but also just a massive geek. He does a lot of horror movie stuff and prop stuff on his second channel. So if you just look up Cosplay Chris or Chris Stanley on YouTube, you'll find him. But yeah, I did do an interview with him, so you can find that video there as well. That was so much fun to do. Oh my goodness.
I watched it and you had a blast on it.
I did. Yeah.
All right, folks, I'm going to let you guys get out of here. Folks, next week, we are going to be going over San Diego Comic-Con announcements, Deadpool Wolverine review, and a whole lot more. Thanks for tuning in tonight, and I'll see you all next week. Have a great week. Oh, yeah, it's a long weekend next week. You guys get to enjoy an extra day, and that free day that evening will be spent here.
Hell yeah.
Have yourself a good night, folks. Love you all. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.